I mean, it is sort of why we do this, right? Is to entertain the people with tales of our particular miseries this past week.
Yeah, I suppose.
If there's anybody out there, like, drop us a line at podbag@nerdingundertheinfluence.com. Do we even get spam in that email anymore?
Is that even an email address that exists?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Short answer, I do get the occasional bit of spam that comes in. It's usually the same type of stuff. Mostly AI generated, sort of like sales focused kind of, hey, we can, hook you up with top guests and interviewees and, the same bullshit, the circle jerk kind of fucking talk podcast crap that dominates listenership.
Yeah.
If I didn't have ethics, morals, I might be interested.
Yeah, hook us up with a top guest. I mean, who can we get? Who could we get on our show that would actually come on our show? Yeah, that's the answer.
Start the game already!
Well, what are you drinking?
It is officially summer. And I can't take credit for this. I asked my wife to pick me up something for the first time in a very long time. Because we were out. I mean, she was just going to the store up the street, not an actual LCBO. But she picked up, and I'm quite chuffed at it. Cottage Springs Beverage Company, punched up 7%. I've got a pink lemonade, a vodka lemonade. And then same company punched up cherry vodka limeade. I dropped this one, so that'll have to wait until the second half of the show. But yeah, little extra alcohol content, little bigger cans.
Standard issue wobbly pops.
And quite tasty.
Well, there you go.
Cottage Springs. Now, is this Canadian? I will feel bad if
it's got
not
Canadian flags on it.
Gluten-free. Yeah, it's got a Canadian flag on it, though. Maple washing has sort of been the topic du jour for the last few weeks, so I don't trust any of that.
No.
Cottage Springs Beverage Co. Toronto, Ontario. All right.
Oh, there you go. I have a foreign beer because I bought a 4-pack of Guinness in order to make a cake. And so I am now drinking the remains of the cans remaining. So, hooray to the Irish. I poured it about 15 minutes ago so that I could drink it now.
Chewy. I've never had a cake that involved Guinness as an ingredient.
Oh, it's very good. It's incredibly rich. You don't there's a little bit of the sort of the rich and bitter taste of Guinness in the cake, but it's a chocolate cake basically with Guinness.
I bet that would be tasty.
Yeah, it is. It's quite nice. And then you make like a cream cheese frosting and drizzle it all over the top so it looks like head. It's great.
Nom, nom, nom.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Speaking of nom, 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 I made beans today, and I've had 2 large bowls, so there might be an intermission. I'm just warning you now.
So this is the 3rd shit episode.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the 56th shit episode.
But
yeah.
What have you been up to?
The regular stuff. Golf season has started, so I've gone outside. The sun is very bright. The temperature has gone from, we literally have one night this week where the low temperature is below freezing. And we also had one day this week where the temperature was over 30 Celsius. Yeah. So hot. And
it's only been May. Pretty bonkers.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I jumped out at lunch today to cut the grass for the 2nd time this week. I cut it usually on the weekends. Saturdays are kind of my day to go out and do it. And you can count on there being about 3 weeks in spring where I got to go out and do like a Tuesday or Wednesday cut, at least on the front yard, just to make it look presentable, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Which for my front yard is saying something. I'm not sure if we've ever talked about it on the show, but sorry, getting messages. Look how professional I am.
Oh yeah. Listen, the professionalism of the show is worth every penny that we get paid for it.
That's why we have a good chance of getting the good guests. I start responding to those emails. No, when we moved into this place, not the owner of it, but the people that owned it before did a little work on it to clean it up for sale. But like they took all the shortcuts, right? So instead of actually, sodding or seeding or cleaning up the yard, they put down that landscaping fabric and then just covered the entire front yard in either planter boxes or mulch. So there was no grass. And what happened to the soil underneath that fabric is it basically turned to sand. So I've spent, now this is my second spring, trying to revitalize this. And I didn't want to spend a lot of money on just like bringing new sod in. So I've been out there seeding and fertilizing and raking and filling. And I haven't spent as much money as I would have had I just, had somebody come in with sod. But when you factor in time, I probably have.
Yup.
But now, like, especially the one side where the tree is not, it is this thick ass, just lush, almost golf course, but like thicker, right? Like, yeah, it's great. I'm actually shockingly proud of it, which just tells me I'm a really, really old man now.
Yeah, yep, that's old man right there.
Yep.
You pull your pants up over your belly button and start wearing New Balance sneakers.
There has been more than one instance in the past couple of weeks of me getting my morning coffee and going out, and we have this sort of closed-in front porch that we just call the airlock. So
okay,
it's got a door on the front, and then you sort of step in. It's like a mudroom almost, but it's very much built onto the front of the house. Take your shoes off, and then there's what would be the actual front door of the house in there. And I'll wander out there with my coffee, and I'll just admire the grass. I'm so old.
Yeah, you better start looking for a retirement home, buddy.
It's true. Yeah. So anyway, that's basically been what I've been up to besides work, yard work, midweek yard work. Tanya was out there planting some extra hostas and some things that we'd sort of separated. Her dad is has been a serious gardener that is slowing down in retirement. He hasn't had the time or, the ability. Like he's up there in years now. So gardening is hard work.
It is.
And he still tries to do it, but things are getting a little bit unruly there. So he's sort of thinning things out a bit. And we were up there doing a family yard sale over the long weekend, and which was, a story in and of itself. But we came home with about as much in plants as we took up.
Yeah,
to sell on the yard sale.
You don't. I don't ever feel like if you're taking stuff to a yard sale somewhere, you end up, especially if it's like a multifamily type of yard sale, you always end up doing more bartering and exchanging than you do actual selling.
Yeah. I managed to avoid most of that myself, but there was a lot of that going on. And, when I say multifamily, like it was Tanya and I, our daughter, and Tanya's sister, basically. So, we filled up the driveway. About 2/3 of the way through the day, I looked at some of the bigger items that I had, and I said, well, I don't want to load them back up in the car. So I grabbed a marker and wrote the word free on a bit of cardboard and just sort of separated a smaller pile and just like, I don't care about this anymore. I wasn't really trying to make money. Ostensibly, we were selling stuff to support our daughter's wedding, which is probably happening next year. So any of the proceeds of it were going towards that. The real objective was, now that the sister-in-law isn't living with us, and we're starting to reclaim that space. We had that big dining room that has been used for storage for the last year that I'm hoping to clean up and actually turn into a dining room / gaming room. We're purging some of the stuff that we didn't get a chance to purge after we moved. So I had like, yeah, big speaker cabinets, for instance, from when I was like doing the odd DJ gig, and a lot of it was like birthday parties for the kids and whatnot. I think I bought them to do audio at my own wedding because we just kind of organized all of that ourselves, and they haven't been used in probably 14, 15 years. It's like they're not anything special. If I wanted to sit and wait and try and hunt a sale where I could have got max value out of them, it might have taken me 2 or 3 years to sell them, and whatever. I ended up giving them away.
Yeah. What effort are you going to go to, and what's your effort worth?
Yeah, that was it. And it's sort of counter to the idea of purging, right? It's like, okay, but I'm going to purge under very specific conditions that mean I'm not going to be purging very much at all.
Yeah, that's the kind of purging I do. I've been looking at the pile of stuff that we've accumulated. I think to myself, yeah, I could probably get rid of some of this, but I don't really want to. Right? Like, I've spent 30 years gathering this stuff in the hopes of one day having a hole I could shove it in that it didn't look awful. And now that I have a home that's big enough to have a hole that I can shove things in, that's where it goes. That's where it's always, it's destiny, right? That's where it was supposed to go, and that's where it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. We didn't manage to sell everything, so we just bundled it up. And I believe Tanya's going up there next weekend to maybe throw some of it out again with the daughter. It's like a prime location for it. They're right on the main drag. If you're heading up 37 and driving through Tweed, just before the bridge, before the Tim Hortons, they're basically right there on the right. And between people turning into Tim Hortons and people getting caught up at the light heading south, traffic basically stops in front of them. So
I do actually drive past that every time I come down. So yeah, that's neat. It's nifty to hear somebody describe something. You're like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is, even though it's nowhere near anywhere that I should know exactly where it is.
No, I knew you'd know it though. So anyway, that's been our thing for the past few weeks. The next bit of excitement is that I just had a delivery of a hammock that I bought the wife for her birthday.
Ooh.
Now, it is an outdoor hammock, to be clear, but it is, it basically means it's the same as an indoor hammock, but it's colorful. It's got that heavy frame. I think it's got a weight capacity like 450 pounds or something on it. So,
did you get it from Hammock Universe?
No, I just ordered this from Amazon. Our daughter had one that was quite similar that she got, and Tanya crawled into it. I think maybe the first time she's ever been in a big hammock like that. She crawled into it over the weekend while we were doing the yard sale, and she's like, I want one of these, please, for my birthday, please. So there was a temptation. Not sure if I've ever talked about it on the show, but the literal thorn in my side for the past several years has been that I really can't get comfortable in bed anymore. Some of it is the bed that we have. A lot of it has been me. And we're kind of dealing with that. And I know that you have recommended the hammock thing in the past several times, and it seems to be working quite well for you. So we were joking about maybe setting it up in the bedroom tonight or, in the next few days for me to try it out.
Take a blanket and go sleep outside.
Yeah.
You have an afternoon nap in it. Start with that. Because if an afternoon nap is comfortable, then you'll know. Because it's not for everybody. Like, there are some people who are really uncomfortable in it. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what happened to us too. I got one to go camping because when we used to go camping, I'd sleep on the ground and it was just so hot in the middle of the summer. I thought, oh, if I can get a little breeze under my ass, great. So I got a camping hammock and we went and it was great. Cindy wouldn't get in it. She wouldn't get in it. She wouldn't get in it. And then one time she's like, all right, I'll get in it and try it, maybe have a nap. And I had to buy another one because I never got that hammock back again. And we came home after that weekend camping. We came home and ordered hammocks for the bedroom and dismantled the bed.
That was a while ago too. That was, Were you in that place in Trenton at that time?
No, it was before that. We were in the apartment in Belleville.
Oh.
At the Mayfair.
Wow.
So it's been...
Yeah, the first time. I know that was probably in that period of time where you and I weren't doing a lot of talking.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think the first time I saw them was at the little place that you were in above the...
above
foot
the
doctors
doctor?
or yeah,
so it would have been like 2 years before that or a year before that.
And I don't remember you having them when you were on McCann. And McCann.
No, we didn't. No. So yes, you have pegged that correctly in the temporal space which we inhabit.
Yay me.
You have a better handle on time than I do. I have to do it by, all right, so I had my 10-year anniversary at work this year, and it was more than 2 years before that. So, yeah. It's crazy to think I've been doing this job for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I have reached that age, I think semi-related, where unironically, more than 3 or 4 times in the past couple weeks, I've had to answer the question, how old am I? And my response was, well, what year is it?
I had somebody, we were golfing the other day, and one of the guys that I golf with, and we're just sort of like, we're friends, but we're pretty casual acquaintance type friends. And he says to me, so how old are you? Like 44? I'm like, no, I'm 52. And he's like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah, that's the reason my knees hurt. My ankles hurt, and I have friggin' arthritis everywhere, and I walk slow on the last couple of holes because everything hurts, man.
But I hear you won something.
We do. Oh my God. So we have every Friday we do a Stableford competition, and there are 4 of us who compete, and it's, the place is run by scientists, so the scoring system is backwards, upside down, bounded by various things, and charted and graphed in such a way that it's exactly the same, but it's really complicated to figure out. Anyway, so you have a sort of target score, right? And then you are either not there, so you're minus numbers, or you do get your target, at which point you're 0, and then you go plus points if you do better than your target. So we finished up our second 9, and we scored -4 as a team, which is normally sort of just out of the money. And we took first place. So we were all thinking, we didn't play very well. We didn't do very well. And it was good for first place. So we won like $52, which will pay for beer for 2 weeks.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. It's a small enough amount of money that I maintain my amateur status. But a large enough amount of money that we can buy beer. So it's perfect.
Nice. So we had some notes, and by some notes, I mean like a full page worth of notes almost, about something that I originally intended on being maybe a just quick topic, and maybe it'll still be one. We made the decision kind of together that we were going to stop doing the serious topic thing that we'd kind of fallen into the trappings of. That's part of why we'd kind of bogged down. Around the new year. Not the entire reason, and not even the main reason, but it was a contributing factor. And we decided, we'll keep things light. This isn't really our thing. So I'm going to fucking ruin all of that by jumping into a conversation that I'm going to sum up with the line, "Thanks, Trump?" ?
That's a pretty good summary of the entire Canadian political situation right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can also thank him for the oncoming rise of electric vehicles becoming super popular.
I hope that will be the case. It probably too early to say, but I hope that will be the case. Anyway, so the general gist of the topic that I wanted to get into was sort of a Canadian focused bent. One of the things that I've almost accidentally caught myself feeling in the last few months is optimism, which seems
Mm-hmm.
just batshit insane. And the basic rationale for that feeling that I was having when I was exploring it was that I was seeing a lot more effort put in by Canadians to show that while Canada isn't perfect, it's pretty damn good, or to make efforts to improve Canada, or yada yada yada. Now I'm seeing this a lot through kind of the lens of the algorithm, and once you start watching one thing, and I try to avoid the the default For You tabs of anything, but even in my heavily curated stuff, I'm seeing a lot more, not just positivity, but awareness and engagement and involvement in being Canadian, sharing what it's like to be Canadian, communicating what's good, what's not good about being Canadian, efforts in the communities to sort of get involved again. And I thought I'd let's talk about that. First of
It's
all, what are you
pretty.
noticing? Yeah.
So all of the things that you've sort of, I mean, I had a couple of sidetracks and rabbit holes that come from that, which I will avoid mostly. But I feel I have the same kind of vibe where like there's a cautious optimism going on, and a lot of it stems from some of it is the contrast between Carney and Trump. I
Mhm.
sent you one of those Lego videos today that actually specifically mentioned Carney, and I thought that would like that's hilarious because for the last like my whole life, as mentioned, I'm 52, and in my lifetime, the number of times that I have seen Canada or anyone Canadian who is mentioned internationally as having been noticed, I can count on the fingers of one hand. Right, so it's kind of neat when it's happening, and now Mark Carney is sort of emerging as this world leader type guy. And you know what? Like I have some beefs with the man and his
Yes.
philosophy. Like he's a neoliberal, he's a conservative. I don't like that. But at the same time, right? He's an adult,
Yeah.
right? He has an ethos, he has a belief system. And while I disagree with some of it, he's consistent in it. I believe this to be true. I believe this to be the best path forward, and I'm going to do that. And he's not, I mean, he's not 100% wrong, right?
Mhm.
Like we're walking in generally the same direction. We're just taking different roads and we have slightly different destinations in mind. You
Yeah.
know, I voted for him. I'm not disappointed in that vote. I wish that he did a few things a little better. As I mentioned in the notes, I wish he would stop talking about privatizing things. It doesn't ever work out for the good. But I mean, he's made a lot of really good deals, like the electric cars I mentioned. Like he made that deal with China where BVD is going to start selling cars in Canada. That's BVD, BYD,
BYD. Yeah.
BYD. BVDs are underwear. Right. And they are literally the world leader in making electric vehicles.
Yes.
So great, right? That's good. Making allies, making friends, like finding new trading partners, diversifying, getting everybody sort of into the same. That's good for the world, I think.
Yeah, and I think you probably disagree with a lot of the stuff that I do, probably, walking back climate protections and stuff like that.
Also
Obviously,
that.
privatizing things. The messaging, and I don't know if you've dug into it too much, but the language and sort of, I think, intentional opaqueness about this sovereign wealth fund or Canada Strong Fund or whatever is, I'm not sure where I sit on it yet, but the fact that they're being a little misleading about it to me is a bit of a red flag. But
I would. It's a yellow flag. It's a caution.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's essentially, Canada Savings Bonds 2.0, right?
Pretty much. It's much more of it's almost like a mutual fund the way it's being set up.
Yeah, and there's advantages to it, but like they're trying to sell it like, oh no, this is like Norway, right, or something
No,
like that.
it's
And
not.
it's just like, no, this is not. You're trying to invest in sort of a domestic thing. You're borrowing to sort of kickstart it, and you don't.
Yeah, the seed money is debt, which is not ideal. But on the other hand, what else are you going to seed it with?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
talking about privatizing your airports, maybe that, that's the connection that I would make, right? Like start looking at your government assets, right? That maybe are burdensome as an organization to run as a government.
But they're not. That's
They're
the
not.
thing.
No, I totally agree with you. But let's hypothetically say if you're looking to divest yourself of something, divesting ownership of that into something that is being run as sort of a national organization, a la like a pension plan or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's like, okay, this is part of our seed funding then, right? This still needs to be a profitable thing. So it's going to be run like a business, but without maybe the worst sort of facets of kind of late stage capitalism. I don't know. That would be a conversation I would be having if I'm trying to put two and two together and be like, yeah, this makes sense. And maybe there's a million reasons why, it doesn't actually make sense and I'm just an idiot. But anyway, the conversation about privatizing airports and shit like that, yes, bothers me a lot.
Yes. Do not sell infrastructure that is required for the functioning of our economy. Do not put that in the hands of oligarchs. Don't do it.
Generally speaking, I like the long-term view of a lot of the moves, right? Like, we're not looking at short-term gains. We're trying to diversify, obviously, but also we're setting ourselves up for, I think people misread the sort of integration into the American economy stuff, right? Like that we're supposed to be distancing ourselves from that. But you look at how tightly we're already integrated, and the United States, for all their faults now, are not going to cease to be a significant economy in the grand scheme of things anytime soon.
Not soon.
Yeah. So, when you look at the things that we are invested in there and the ways that we are integrated with the American economy, it's not just about doing business with them, right? But like, we own a shit ton of American infrastructure. Rail systems, highways, bridges. That's a stuff that is going to pay for itself over and over and over again for 30, 40, 50 years. To me, that's smart. As a guy who's worried about whether he's going to have a pension available to him in 10, 15 years, right? Because I'm working for myself now, but I haven't been working in an industry where I'm getting that sort of third-party employee kind of pension deal. Like I'm going to rely on Canada Pension Plan, whatever's left of it, by the time I hopefully can finally stop working for a living.
I think, to be honest, as much as there's a lot of fear mongering around Canada Pension, I think it's pretty healthy, right? It's been reasonably well run. The only trouble with it is the Ponzi scheme that all of late stage capitalism is built on. Of, well, the next generation has to be bigger than this one because they need to pay taxes in order to make up the shortfall for all of the cans that we've kicked down the road. Right, and eventually that sort of mountain of stuff is going to catch up with us, and we need to deal with it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into that sort of manosphere discussion about population decline and stuff like that.
It's got to slow down eventually. We cannot grow forever.
We cannot grow forever, but I also recognize and support that we are a country that thrives on immigration. I look at immigration as a good thing, and it's not necessarily the only solution to that problem, but it is a contributing solution to that problem. And, Canada is a country of immigrants.
I did not mean to imply that I didn't. I do think that there are some troubling. It's a nuanced discussion, right? And
yes,
that's the
absolutely.
thing that gets lost a lot of times, is that, like, it's okay. Yes, I want immigration into Canada. However, I want places for them to live and food for them to eat, please.
Oh, absolutely. We can't be selling a false bill of goods, and I think that's sort of what you've expressed as your problem in the past. And I 100% agree with you in that.
We need to hug and share and learn and grow is what we need to do.
Yeah. And, we can sort of be strategic. And I guess that will sort of help move us on to the next part of this topic, which is seeing people speaking out. I'm seeing a lot of like Canadian YouTubers, for instance. There's the go-to ones that are getting a lot of traction now. Todd Maffin, I keep sort of bringing up just because he's sort of the overt example of this. And some of the stuff that he's doing is actually just fantastic. Like, I find his positivity a little bit too much.
Yeah, me
sometimes,
too.
Right? But it's
I'm very glad that his positivity exists. I have trouble dealing with it.
Yeah. The thing he's doing, have you seen his videos about the Canadian snack food makers kind of stuff that he's doing, where he basically 3 weeks ago, I think it was, he created a short that basically just said, stop sending me stuff. Stop, especially if you're, a small Canadian family owned, cookie company or whatever, right? Absolutely stop sending my stuff at P.O. Box, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I think it's a 4 or 5 video series right now. He just got some other people involved. He's done some other social stuff, but he's basically carried that bit on. He's the shtick is now that these people didn't listen to me and they've sent me this shit. And, then he ran. It's one of the most clever commercials that I've ever willingly watched in a very, very long time. And it's just great. It's great. And, he's doing a lot for encouraging and kind of helping to guide the people that are potentially interested, especially in the healthcare industry.
Yes.
Moving into Canada, connecting them to communities and stuff like that. And it's,
and he's bringing other people on board with, because he came up, I think it was him and his wife came up with like a whole raft of strategies and all of that stuff, and then used that blueprint and sort of handed it out to people all across the country, which is great. I mean, that's a wonderful contribution.
Yeah. And I can say that I can't directly link it to the stuff that he's doing, but I am seeing, even in my own community, healthcare workers starting to flow in. Now, not necessarily from the United States specifically, but in an area that has been starving for doctors. I've been talking about my health issues a little bit in the past few episodes, and I think the one thing that I haven't done that I really should have done is called out just how easy it was to gain access to a doctor for the first time in ever. I haven't had a family doctor since I was about 17.
Oh my God.
I've, been waiting I've been on Healthcare Connect, yada, yada, yada. It was a situation where my doctor retired when I was a teenager. Some of the roster got absorbed. Not all of it did. I wasn't one of the people that was there all the time being billed for kind of thing. So I just didn't make it on a list.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya has had a family doctor forever. And he's one of those sort of old school doctors that must have 10,000 people on her roster. And it takes her 3-4 weeks, unless it's an emergency, to get a regular family doc appointment. I started dealing with some of the new walk-in clinics in the area. And by walk-in clinic, I mean, they are a family practice that have a family roster that's just much smaller. And then they dedicate, because they can make more money doing it, dedicate a certain number of their hours and billables towards walk-in things. I can go online to this clinic that I've been using and probably book a doctor's appointment for tomorrow, right now.
Oh,
if
nice.
not, certainly by the end of the week.
That's
no questions
fantastic.
asked. It's a small appointment. It's like a, single issue per visit kind of thing, but it's also covered by OHIP. It's, I'm not paying out of pocket for it. It has been great. Now, I wish they would agree to, examining the inside of my ass when I feel like I probably need it. But
well, there's a different kind of professional. You can pay for that if you need to.
That's true. But, in terms of dealing with getting all of the testing that I've been doing over the past few weeks, ruling out a lot of stuff, it turns out that, like, with the exception of my blood pressure, which is insanely bad, I basically have the body of a 20-year-old. Like, in the way the rest of my testing has come back, it's been like shockingly good.
Oh, wow.
Everything from like my vitamin D deficiency was bad, but that's just to take supplements kind of thing. But like my cholesterol, all the traditional markers for like a lot of shit has been absolutely fantastic. And, all of that has kind of come from being able to book appointments with this clinic. And I think they, I don't want to specify a specific country, but I don't know. But, based on their names and having met them, I think they're a husband and wife that have probably moved here from somewhere in Africa. I don't look at that like it's a bad thing, like extremely professional, good at what they do. It's an enjoyable experience in general, as much as going to see a doctor ever can be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that wouldn't have been available to me even 3 years ago and is available to me today, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's good news.
I would still like to have a family doctor that's sort of up to speed on a medical history so that, it isn't like I'm starting fresh every time or whatnot. But compared to like going to Emerge to deal with like the one-off stuff, like this has just been so refreshing.
Well, yeah, because you don't have to sit there for 4 hours.
And that is, the result of initiatives, whether it's government initiatives, community initiatives, stuff like what Todd Maffin is doing, just general awareness and easing sort of the onboarding experience for these people from outside Canada coming in and fulfilling a need. And I know that there's a lot of people that are going to be like, yeah, well, they're, taking jobs that, good Canadians could have or whatever. There are not enough people from Canada domestically going into these specific niches to serve the communities.
There's just not enough new people in the employment pool to take care of the stuff that needs, let alone the stuff that needs like 8 years of education. If you want the job, go to medical school, get a degree, you can have that job. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of sort of tail end things to that make like that path is difficult regardless, right? Like it's an awful lot of study. It's expensive to become a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there's an additional thing that could go onto that of like, hey, let's encourage people to become doctors and nurses and let's pay them to do it.
Yes.
Because if you want to become a doctor or a nurse, it should not be, well, do you have enough money to become a doctor or nurse? It should be, oh, okay, do you have the aptitude? Great. Mm-hmm. You should become a doctor or a nurse, and it should not be onerous financially.
And it might be too early and too optimistic to say that will ever happen. But given the recent trend that I'm seeing towards taking the long view on things, 3 years ago, I would never have considered the idea that that's something that might have happened here, right? That they would, remove education roadblocks, remove financial roadblocks, not for everybody. And that's part of why it's hard to do these types of things, right? Because, when you're making exceptions to the rule for specific things, people get their knickers in a knot over it.
People are going to get their knickers in a knot no matter what you do. You may as well just knot their knickers and kick them down the road.
Like topics of loan forgiveness and stuff like that have been sort of popular in North America. And we've joked about it before, this idea that, well, I paid back my student loan, so you should too.
Yeah, but you were able
context of
oh my God, you were able to pay back your student loans with bottle tops and friggin'
Yeah. You walked into a 6-figure job immediately out of school and you bought your house for $75,000, and like, that's not the reality that people looking to go to school and join the workforce face today.
No. When we bought this house, we were able to see it's been sold 4 or 5 times since it was originally built. And since it was built, I'm not going to say value because it's not value, but the cost of the house has gone up 5 times. Like I'm in a tiny small town with real estate that ought to be depressed, and it's 5 times what it cost 20 years ago. Wages haven't gone up 5 times. That's insane. It's insane. It's not unique by any means. So yes, there's lots of stuff still to do, and I think there always will be. But you're right. There's definitely cause for optimism. There are still actually adults in the room, which is really nice.
And a special shout out to the youth.
Yes.
One thing that I'm seeing a lot, and again, I look at this through the lens of the media that I consume. I don't watch a lot of mainstream TV. I don't, I cut my cord like 20 years ago now. So I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, and again, probably some of it is algorithmically driven, so I'm seeing some of it more. But the volume of younger people, both sort of natural-born Canadians and people that have immigrated to Canada in the last 10 years, just out there sharing their experience and in a generally positive sense. I mean, there's people that come at it the other direction too. And again, we're not perfect, so completely valid, but positively contributing either way.
Mm-hmm. There's absolutely criticisms that you can make and that should be made, but they need to be, well, let me put it like this. There are people who are doing both the positive and the negative, but they're doing it in a considered way.
Yeah.
Rather than a hyperbolic way, rather than just, I'm going to say everything's awful because reasons or whatever. It's, here's what I think is bad and here's why. And, here's the steps that I use to come to this conclusion. I've said it before and I will say it again. I think honestly that the younger generation, like not so much millennials, because they went sort of between, the Gen X and not caring about anything and the hopelessness that exists as the general state of things, and just went, well, I guess. But like Gen Z and Gen Alpha are coming along behind and going, okay, yes, you're right. It's definitely fucked up. How do we fix it? Yeah. Let's go fix it. And I have a great deal of respect and admiration for that attitude. I wish I had it. I really don't.
And not a shot at millennials. I'm right on the edge of like old millennial, young Gen Xer. And, I grew up part of that latchkey generation that sort of shaped and molded a lot of especially the older millennials, right? Where we had to fend for ourselves. And, we've lived through how many like periods of economic turmoil where, people were losing shit. Like, millennials are the most resilient and adaptable generation in recent memory, and I see it all around, your entire career just collapsed. Okay, well, you move on to the next thing, right? Okay, well, I can do this, in a way that other generations just can't and won't do or are not equipped to do. Everything from living through the .com bubble to the 2008 crisis to 9/11 to, everything that's come with it. Like it's been a
trip.
It's been a trip, but generally speaking, millennials have had to tough it out and spend most of their effort trying to figure out on how do I make my own life sustainable now, right? Like,
yes,
what do I have to do? And, that goes right back to, being a latchkey kid, feeding your younger siblings, being the cook and the housewife while your mom was out working 2 jobs kind of thing, right? Like that's that's born from that. But we have a hard time breaking out of that now. And this younger generation is very much like, okay, but like let's zoom out. Let's look at the bigger picture and be like, how do we fix this systemically?
Yes. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to express. Is
Yeah.
it's not trying to say that millennials aren't doing it because they're bad. It's that they were dealt a shit hand, right? And they're still trying to clean up the shit sandwich that they were dealt.
Yeah.
Whereas, Gen Z is able to go, okay, yep, I see the shit sandwich and it's rolling downhill. I don't want a shit sandwich. Change. Also, the Gen X, one of the reasons that Gen X really didn't change very much is because we're as a like the cohort of Gen X is actually quite small, comparatively speaking. So we kind of looked at the boomers and went, well, we can't do fuck all, so why bother? Which is really, I mean, that's the message of Gen X, right? Don't even look at us. Forget about us. We're not interested. We can't do anything. We don't care. Whatever. Right. And then, and millennials kind of got caught in that trap too. Because if you look at like who's in charge right now, it's still all fucking boomers.
Yeah.
Right. Most of them ought to be in a retirement home somewhere, just dealing with their dementia. But for some reason, they're still in charge.
Yeah. And that'll be one of I don't want to call it a tragedy of degeneration, but like realistically speaking, millennials are going to be the generation that never really sees significant representation of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people that are making waves now are also the youth. They're the youngest of the millennials and the early Gen Zs. Our I'm not going to say our next president of the United States, but like there is hopefully a shift towards approaching expectations and embracing new ideas just a little bit differently, right? The voting demographic is slowly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that, democracy is still a thing in 10 years.
I think it will be. I think there's going to be a little bit of turmoil between now and then, but I think it will be. It would be nice to have a president who knows how to make a PDF.
Yeah.
It's all computer.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the positive stuff.
Yeah, there's two people that I want to call out specifically. It's a YouTube channel that I've recently stumbled across. It sounds like you've probably watched more of it than I have.
A fair bit.
Two girls, women, educated women. One of
very intelligent women.
Very intelligent, yes, intimidatingly so. I think one of them is Serbian. I don't remember the origin of the other one, but they run a YouTube channel called Make That Change, which is very, very focused on Canada. Being Canadian, coming into Canada, they're sort of learning about the country that they've come into, and they're kind of taking people along that ride. So they touch on a whole ton of interesting topics from, the politics and sort of way we're looking at things from the long term and how the world seems to be embracing carny. But they also talk about things like Canada's nuclear energy program, like how decisions made in the past to embrace things like CANDO, for instance, right? And I don't know all of the specifics about this myself. Certainly it's something you can probably speak to more, but, became a big win. Going with plan B essentially became a big win, and it was sort of a strategic win of the lottery for us. We're now sort of at a similar fork in the road, is my understanding. Sort of
kinda
embracing, like, do we double down on sort of the CANDO angle and dealing with like non-enriched uranium fuel? Are we jumping on the sort of small modular reactor kind of stuff, which requires something that has been enriched, but we don't have an enrichment program, and maybe we're trying to do both? And anyway, interesting videos like that. So they deal with a lot of scientific shit as well. And well, I don't want to get into the specifics necessarily of it. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the type of content that they do. There's something there for anybody, really, whether you're interested in science, whether you're interested in politics, whether you're interested in,
social things,
tourism, you name it, the education systems, how money works. And they are probably the perfect example that embodies a lot of what I've been seeing recently that is cause for the positivity that I've been feeling. Optimism, a little bit. I don't want to oversell it. Broadly speaking, I'm a cynic and not an optimistic man. But the last few years in particular, I've fallen into borderline nihilism.
Oh, yeah.
And for the first time in all of that time, I feel like I'm starting to see maybe a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, a reason to sort of poke my head out of the hole and be like, oh, maybe the world won't end.
I'm pretty sure the world won't end. We might end ourselves.
My world,
Yeah.
broadly speaking, quotation marks, the world.
Yeah.
The world. Maybe it won't all turn out completely shitty.
I think it'll all turn out reasonably well. There's two names that I'd like to sort of tack on because I have they've been in my algorithm for a fair bit, and I some of their stuff I watch and some of them I sort of turn on and go, yep, this isn't really for me, so off I go. But there's two names that I want to add to that list. Rachel Gilmore, who is a journalist who. She was working for a major outlet, and I forget which one, but she got let go in a sort of general layoff type of thing and went independent and now does social media. I have a little bit of a problem listening to her because of my personal baggage, but she is very good at presenting information, at doing research for stories, being responsible with the information, and also adding a little bit of snarkiness that I really appreciate for the things where it's appropriate. And she comes at it from a really progressive viewpoint, which I find very refreshing. And there's also a guy, and I don't know the fella's name, and I'm sorry, but his YouTube channel is The Rational National, and he covers sort of world news from a kind of Canadian viewpoint. There's a lot of sort of Canadian stuff in there as well. He does a lot of coverage of Doug Ford. I would suggest you skip his coverage of Doug Ford if you want to remain positive, because Dougie's a bad man, but.
Yes.
He also does that thing where it's, like, here are some things that are really screwed up. Here is something that brings me hope kind of stories. So worth checking out.
So to put a little bow on this, I guess I would just say that if you've been feeling like I've been feeling for the last little while, now's maybe a good time to sort of poke your head up, prairie dog a little bit. If you're a YouTube viewer, I would suggest maybe start watching some Todd Maffin stuff. He probably won't be for you. You used the word relentlessly positive.
Yes.
But if you watch a few of his videos and then you start looking at your feed, a bunch of other people are going to start popping up, which is sort of what happened for me. And, the end result is it's a little easier for me to get up in the morning and do the shit that I need to do and go out and admire my grass. And, everything's not fixed. And I'm not saying that. No amount of watching some, YouTubers that sort of align with your line of thinking is going to ever make things fixed and make things good and right. But
might make you feel better.
It has made me feel better, and it has given me, if not hope, at least it's allowed me to sort of carve out some space for, hey, it might all turn out. And if that's not hope, it's close. It's better than what the alternative has been for the last couple of years. So I encourage you to check it out. Specifically, focus on the Canadian stuff if you're Canadian. If you're not, for our American viewers, maybe you'll want to focus on the Canadian stuff too. I can't imagine that you'd want to focus on what passes for mainstream media and commentary down there. I've been getting a lot of stuff that I sort of half watch. And it reminds me how so much of even like the left-leaning commentary is just so focused on the criticism of the way the situation is rather than sort of trying to contribute alternatives or what. David Pacman is a guy that sort of popped up, younger sort of political commentary guy, very left leaning, but not afraid to call out Democrats as well, kind of thing, right? He's popped up a lot, but again, just trying to listen to it is so exhausting. And I think that's the challenge Americans face in trying to even find a little bit of positive nuggets out there, is just how exhausting and overwhelming the rest of the messaging is. And in Canada, it was like that as well, on a smaller scale, right? But like it was, listen, we've for a very long time been the sort of wily little brother, right? And we still are, but we're the little brother that's moving out of home and getting his own place, and all of a sudden has a better job than you, and has a hotter girlfriend or whatever. It's been really interesting seeing the relationship and the hole that Mark Carney in Canada's kind of been filling on the world stage now. When I see it, it's like this is an exaggeration, but the messaging that's out there is almost positioning him as like the de facto appointed leader of like the new European movement, as well as just sort of pointing Canada in a direction that like seems reasonable given the bullshit that we've had to deal with for the past few years. Which, listen, he's not democracy genius, not democracy Jesus or anything, but it's anyway.
He's a very stable Jesus.
Stable Jesus. I need more alcohol.
So do I. All right. So I think we're done with the serious topics, and we're gonna go talk about video games or something.
Yeah, let's do that.
I used to be an adventurer like you.
Stay a while and listen.
All right. So why don't you introduce things? I'm gonna run to the fridge and grab another beer.
Oh, I was going to ask you how the poop situation was. You seemed worried about that earlier.
I was going to make it a one beer night.
Fuck that shit.
But then I burped and now I got room.
I have played a video game for the first time in
out of character.
2 months. No, I've been playing the game that I have been looking forward to for a long time. Just released this past week on early access. The only survival game that really hooked me was the first Subnautica game. And I know that, like Satisfactory, it's a show that it is a game that I have hyped up a fair bit. The expansion didn't exactly, I was whelmed by it, I guess. But Subnautica 2 is a return to form, sort of return to its roots. It has had a whole bunch of drama related to sort of its development and company Crafton that sort of bought them up. And I think I touched on it in another episode, so I'm not going to get into it. The game itself released in early access, and Subnautica 1 was one of the games that really pioneered the modern early access model for a game. Release a game that is sort of functional but missing a lot of content, engage regularly with your community, and help sort of shape and mold the game into its final form. Coffee Stain did this with Satisfactory. They're a more recent and probably even more relevant example of that. The initial early access release of the first Subnautica was much more raw than the game that I played this week. Subnautica 2 is not by any means finished. There's a whole bunch of content that just isn't there, like entire biomes that just aren't there right now. I think their roadmap has the game probably hitting 1.0 in like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's a wait.
It is a wait. They take their time with it, but it was well worth it in the case of Subnautica 1, and I can only speak to what I've seen with Subnautica 2. The game I played this week was shockingly polished for an early access game. It was the core gameplay loop, and again, the bar was high, but like they were starting high, right? All they needed to do is like let's take that first game and just do it a little bit better. Everybody loved that game. And they've made some interesting decisions. I will certainly wait until I've played the final game to, make any strong proclamations, but there's probably, I don't know, 16, 18 hours worth of like story and stuff before you run into the message. It's like, you've reached the end of the early access content, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be doling out more stuff during the early access period. But it was great. They for people that played the first game that haven't touched the second game yet, the story, I guess, is a little bit more in your face, but not in the way that the expansion pack was. One of the things in Subnautica 1 that I really liked about it was that the story was maybe a little more essential to the plot than like Satisfactory was, where the story was just sort of flavor stuck on top of the core gameplay loop. But it still was sort of its own thing, right? Like you're, as far as the sole survivor on an ocean planet. You've got some, hand wavy sci-fi kind of technology that allows you to, like a Star Trek replicator kind of thing, but you got to feed it raw materials. It's basically a game about survival, gathering, building the next thing or getting the next thing, unlocking the next thing so that you can go deeper, right? Your progression is getting into deeper and scarier territory. And in the first game, all of that there was sort of a drizzle of story that would come out in like finding, the wreckage of something, and you'd see some old log files or something like that on a PDA that you'd read or something like that, right? And that is mostly how it works in Subnautica 2 as well, but there's more of a, I don't know what to call it. It's not like a quest giver, but it's kind of like a quest giver that doles out more of the, I've detected they're called black boxes. So go here. And when you go there, you start finding things that unlock more nuggets of story, unlock more progression. So it feels a little bit more directed, I think. Not linear, but like there's sort of a closer tie to the progression than what I remember from the first game. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad yet.
It was the little bit that I played of the original Subnautica game. My one complaint was there is no direction.
Yeah.
Right. And it didn't need much. Like it doesn't need very much. I just need like a breadcrumb, a little bit of a push, a hint.
Yeah, and there were definitely times in playing the first game that you definitely felt like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Like, I'm not bored. I have stuff to do, but what am I supposed to be doing right now? I don't know. I guess I'll just, I'll dive deeper. I'll go to that place that I haven't been yet. And then, of course, as you do, sort of stuff unlocks. There just seems to be, at least in the early access content that I played for Subnautica 2, a little bit more intentional. Hey, you might want to go check out this place. It isn't necessarily a requirement, right? Like you can still explore any direction you want at your own peril. The core mechanism of you need to sort of level up, essentially, right? You need to improve your gear so that you can dive deeper and survive, managing oxygen, breathing better, pressure, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. There's some mechanics layered on top of the core gameplay aspect of this game. And I don't want to, I guess it's not really a spoiler. In Subnautica 1, you were just a human that happened to crash land on an ocean planet. And through exploration and the little bit of story and stuff, you find out that, oh, we didn't crash land, we were shot down, and there has been an alien presence at one time on this world. No, there's this virus thing that's going on too. Right?
Ah.
And Subnautica 2 follows some of those beats, right? Like it feels a little bit like The Force Awakens in that it's like, okay, everybody wants us to just make the old Star Wars again, so let's make the old Star Wars again and do a decent job of it. So it rhymes, to quote George Lucas, with the first game a lot, but they layer on this sort of interesting second layer of the fact that, like, oh god, I don't want to spoil it, but it's such an obvious part of the game. Like it literally the first thing you see, so it's not much of a spoiler. You're essentially a colonist? Question mark. You, like, people are colonists. You are actually something called a qualified investigator.
Oh.
And you are a soul, somebody's consciousness that had been sort of saved digitally, and then you were printed in a new body upon arriving to this world. But this isn't the world that you were supposed to arrive on.
Oh, okay.
And so there's an interesting mechanic that kind of comes out in the story about this idea of, like, people can die and just be reprinted. That sort of ties into, I'm interested to see where it goes with the full story. They're sort of setting something up that I think is going to be kind of interesting. Interesting isn't the right word. I think it's going to be pretty clever. But, I'm only guessing at where they're going to go with it. But, it's sort of their lipstick that they're putting on, what is essentially like a respawn system in the game, right? Like what happens when you die and you load your last save. It is
you
sort
just
of
reprint a new body.
Yeah, it is a gameplay justification for something like that happening that gets a little bit more integrated with a story. A la, some of the other stuff that we've talked about recently, like the flashback stuff in Project Hail Mary, how it was actually tied to what was going on with the character and his loss of memory and stuff like that. Like it kind of feels a little bit more like that. But there's also this sort of aspect of, like, one of the first things that you have to do when you jump into the game is, oh, wow, the air pressure is more than a human can breathe. So stick your hand in that weird alien thing, and essentially you're going to take on some of its DNA and genetically modify yourself to be able to function in this habitat. So where in the first game you were just sort of improving your technology to dive deeper and explore newer biomes, you're doing that in this game, but you're also have this second layer of progression that is tied to augmenting your genome using alien shit. While there is this whole commentary going on that's like, oh, yeah, we probably shouldn't be doing this, or like when they start mixing the alien technology with your own technology, there's just this undercurrent. And again, limited in scope because it's the early access content, but it's just like, yeah, this probably isn't going to end well.
No.
Yeah.
That's way too much duct tape to be using for gene splicing.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I did finish sort of the progression that was available to me in early access, and it took my time. So I probably put maybe 20 hours into it or something over the span of the week. I might do a little bit more base building and stuff now, but I think I'm probably going to wait until there's significantly more content available before I spend a lot of time. Which is good, right? Because, like, investing 20 hours into a game, that's kind of quaint after all the time we spent playing Satisfactory.
Oh my God. I don't even want to think about how much time I've spent playing Satisfactory. I literally spent, I want to say over the course of the last, because I've been playing the experimental branch of Satisfactory. right? And I want to, because I want to play with the road system. But then I went, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to build like blueprints for stuff. So I started building blueprints. I bet you I've put 30 or 40 hours into making 6 or 7 different shapes of road.
I would bet if you looked at Steam right now, you're probably at 1,000 hours or very close.
Why don't I have a look? Because I think you're probably pretty close to correct. Where do I see that? Why?
If you look in your you might just be able to look at it looking at the game, but I know if you look at your profile, it'll probably come up as well.
You undersold me a little bit there, bud. I'm at 1,538 hours.
Holy shit. I bet you I'm not at 1,000 hours yet. And I've played that game for like 5 years more than you have.
I got somewhat involved.
Going back to that comment about me potentially ruining your life by introducing you to Satisfactory.
I mean, that's almost a year's work, man. And when did you send me this thing? Like a year ago?
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
I think there's probably a start date in there too, right?
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Cindy.
I have absolutely been enjoying it. Do I get a date from when I downloaded this? I don't know if I do or not.
Well, it was a year ago that we got Rich involved, so you'd been playing it for I think a couple of months at that point.
Yeah, so it's probably about 18 months, maybe.
Yeah. When's your birthday?
So, in April.
I think I bought it for your birthday.
Yes, I think you did. So it would have been almost exactly a year ago. It's a year and a month or two.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Well, I've had a lot of fun with it. I'll bet you I've put in a similar amount of time into the Long Dark, which I know that you're not a fan of, but I really do enjoy.
I bet you only like 400 hours.
You're damn close. 418.
Hey, for a survival game, that's a lot of time.
It is.
Have you been playing anything?
I've been working on road blueprints in Satisfactory because 1.2 has a launch date now, which is June the 2nd.
Ooh.
They've committed to that. They released a teaser trailer today. I've been playing the Long Dark a little bit. I started playing a custom mode because I found that there was just a little bit too much wildlife. And you can play on a harder mode, which is, sort of entertaining for where I'm at, for knowing maps and how things work and mechanics and whatever. But there's just a little bit, like there's too many bears.
Yeah.
Right. So I started a custom game because I thought the only thing that's different in custom is that you don't get achievements, which I'm fine with. I've got the ones I want. And I turned the loot up. I made the weather really hard. I made the animals really dangerous, but fewer of them. And so far I have been very much. Also, I turned guns off, which makes things a little bit more challenging. It means that I have to make my own arrowheads in order to make arrows so that I can, defend myself from various things. Yeah, and I've been enjoying it. I think I'm 20 or 30 days into that run, in-game days. Which is, sort of the point at which you start to become comfortable and you're setting up bases and going to, because there's a few mysteries that you also have to solve in the game, right? And I haven't actually gone through all of those yet. So I'm going to try and get through those and see how far I can get.
Nice. Hey, do you want to talk about some books?
We should. There's lots.
A book?
That's right. When I was your age, television was called books. This is a special book.
You keep recommending me books, and I keep reading them, and they're all good.
Well, I'm glad. Eventually, I'm going to recommend something that you hate.
Looking forward to it.
This is going to be a little bit like our conversation about Project Hail Mary, in that, like, this series I read in a weekend. I don't know, more than a month ago now, I guess. And you've just wrapped up. This is the 3-book Interdependency Series by John Scalzi, which we have talked about the Old Man's War series that we read together previously by him. And we generally liked that. I think you've read more of the later books in the series than I have. I'm still kind of, I think 4 books is kind of where I left off. I will revisit that eventually, but I sort of romped through these books. I liked that they were very much in contrast to the stuff that I'd read from him before. You've now read them, so let's talk about them a little bit more. Starting with general impressions.
I really enjoyed it. I found it was, and I think that we mentioned this, or we were going back and forth in chat about it a bit. It's a little bit like Game of Thrones for people with less attention span,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of I mean, it's called the Interdependency Series, right? So there's a lot of sort of the description of the interconnectedness between the various merchant families. They're kind of like noble houses or royal houses or whatever. There's an awful lot of sex that is handled mostly pretty well, right? I think that's going to be a major point of discussion for us here in a bit. But my general impressions are that the characters are compelling. I really do wish that, is it Mars? I really wish that we got to hear a little bit more from his sister, because she was a character that I really would have appreciated, because she would have been a little bit more like Kiva, but a little bit more toned down, if that makes sense. And I really would have, I think I really would have enjoyed that character.
Now, I agree with you on all of that. This series was clever in a lot of ways, and I want to talk about the sci-fi and some of the ideas in it. But I think we do need to back up and sort of call this series what it is. And it is the attempt by a male author to write a series of books where most of the important characters are badass women of varying degrees, right? Like they're with the exception of Mars, there are not a lot of significant male characters in this story. There were times where he felt a little bit self-insert, but times where he didn't. You know, the idea that he ended up in sexual relationships with several of the female characters in the story was just a little bit like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was mostly fine.
It was mostly fine. This is something that reminded me a little bit of Robert Heinlein in his later years, where sex is approached with a great deal of a casual attitude, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And that's one of those things. The Mars character is sort of the kind of a point of view character for the, I don't know, like the other side of the story, for the sciencey bits mostly. And he ends up in bed with all these women. It's a little bit, looking back on it, it's a little bit of why, right?
Yeah.
Like I understand why Cardinia. I understand why she goes for him, right? Because there's a compatibility there that's like obvious from the get-go. But in every other case, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? What do you see in him?
Well, and that's one of the tropes that I think, Scalzi kind of fell into, was how do I portray a strong, independent female character? Well, sexual liberation is sort of an obvious tropey way to do it. The Kiva character in particular was cartoonishly, I think intentionally hitting all of those tropes.
And I've come around a little bit on that, because the Kiva character actually sort of rubbed me the wrong way, pun intended, in the beginning, where I'm like, okay, this is a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, it is so over the top that I've come around to think, okay, like I think I get what's going on here, and I'm okay with it, because it is intentionally over the top in order to illustrate this point.
Now, disclaimer for those listening, before we either turn you off or turn you on way too much. When we say that there's a lot of sex in these books, there actually is almost no sex in these books. There's no scenes with lurid descriptions of it. there's just a lot of sort of like the inner dialogue and expression of characters' desires. So there's characters that talk about sex a lot. They try to make sex, especially with Kiva's character, like literally her one character trait at the start of the book. She as a character goes through some pretty great growth, which actually makes it pay off. She was, if not my favorite character, certainly one of them in the books. But
Mhm.
it isn't sci-fi with smut, right? Like it's just
No.
it's they touch on the topic. The sex happens off screen, so there's no real like, you're not reading sex scenes, but you are definitely reading about characters who seem to want to have sex an awful lot. So I think
It's
there's room for, you to be slightly uncomfortable with it while still enjoying the book. We're not recommending something akin to 50 Shades of Grey or something like that to people that don't want to be
no.
reading smut. This
It's
isn't
not
that.
smut. No, there's just an awful lot of we're going to have sex now, and it's the next chapter.
Yeah, and we are probably overreacting to it or overcorrecting because, two schlubby white dudes talking about female
Yeah.
characters in a book written by a schlubby white dude, where it's very clear that the focus of the book was to write strong female characters. We can't ignore it.
It's unignorable.
Yeah.
It's there. It's in your face. It's obvious.
It is. And it is the one thing I think in this series that might turn some people off. What I would say is if you start reading this and you're uncomfortable with it at the beginning, try and read on a little bit more, because I think
It changes.
it changes. And I don't think it's just sort of an evolution of the writer either. Like I don't think
No.
he corrected. I think it was sort of an intentional, like the entire civilization that he creates is almost cartoonishly one-dimensional, and I want to talk about that.
I want to make one more point about the sex,
Okay, go ahead.
because in spite of it being ubiquitous and sort of like people talking about it a lot, it is never treated as disrespectful, right? It's never it's never a cause for someone to not have respect for someone else. It's literally treated like an itch to be scratched.
Yeah. And because we made the Game of Thrones / Song of Ice and Fire parallel earlier, to be clear, the sex is not approached in the same way that George R.R. Martin does. There's no, uncomfortable sort of stuff like, incest and assault and things like that. Like it is all
It is just very
casual. Yeah. And I think it's almost an intentional symptom of the society that he sort of created in this.
Yes.
So I do want to touch on it. The idea of the interdependency. So spoilers for anybody listening to this
For the
that
last
might want to read it.
for the last 5 minutes and ongoing.
Yeah. We're not, we haven't talked about anything really plot related. The central crux of this story, the framework, I guess, in which the story happens, is that at some point in time, a sort of sci-fi spacefaring human civilization, in an attempt to end the typical sort of conflicts that you would see in a lot of sci-fi, built an entire society built on capitalist monopolies, where
Which is definitely not going to cause any problems.
Which is definitely not going to cause any problems. But like you touched on the idea of like royal houses, right? But these aren't people that are like blue blood royals. They're not royal in the sense that, society thinks they're any different. They hold monopolies on the right to sell specific goods, whether that is making spaceships and robots or selling citrus fruit. Like this family is the only one in this civilization allowed to sell oranges, or the patents or the licenses to grow oranges on your planet or whatever. But that's how they built this interdependency, right? it would be ridiculous for you to go to war in sort of a traditional conflict sense as, you know, different planetary systems in this civilization, because where would you get your grapefruit or your spaceships or your, you know, whatever it is? It is like a cartoonish version of capitalism on steroids. And the reason why it's sort of important is that while maybe you could twist yourself into thinking that the idea made sense at the time, it became very, very apparent that would also be their downfall for, like, you know, catastrophic reasons that are happening right now. And again, spoilers, like most sci-fi that happens in space, there's sort of a wibbly wobbly, you know, gobbledygook type of, how do we make faster than light travel possible, or the equivalent of it? And this series is built around something that is sort of loosely equivalent to wormholes, right? We can't travel faster than the speed of light, but we have these flows, these extra dimensional rivers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you can find an entrance point, you get into it, you're in it for a certain amount of time, and then you get spit out. And they all seem to either start or end around these planetary systems where these different houses operate business, right? So that all sort of makes sense. But the overarching sort of cataclysmic thing that's happening is that all of those wormholes, those space rivers, right? They're going away. They're moving. And you've got a society. Yeah, they're drying up. And you've got a society that is built on being interdependent, and none of those portions, those fragments of the society, are self-sustainable.
Also, an important note is that all but one of them do not have a habitable planet.
Yeah. So what makes the story interesting for me is, well, how do the people in it react when, you know, they realize that the sky is falling? The exploration of the morality, but, you know, yeah, you get all of these people that are sort of, they can't let go of their self-interest, right? All of these houses that own these monopolies, they can't take the long view. You know, looking back at our previous conversation, you know, they gotta focus on next quarter's profit and what's in it for me. And you know what? It doesn't matter if the world's ending. I'm going to be the Emperox.
Yeah.
You know, which, I mean, it's not, funny enough, something that you read if you want to come away with, like, you know, optimism, because there's certainly a lot of parallels to be drawn in a cartoonish way to, like, our society and, you know, billionaire culture and all of those things.
There are, but there's a whole bunch of hope in there, because there are a bunch of people who fight that tooth and nail.
Where this differs from things like hard sci-fi, I think, and stuff like Game of Thrones, is I think he finds a way of sort of building a little bit of whimsy on top of that. Now, you know, I think Scalzi probably has one writing style that he sort of adapts to all of these things, and it's just snark.
Yes.
You know,
there's a lot of snark.
There's a lot of snark, and I love snark. This is probably the number one reason why I like him. But, you know, it does make some of the characters a little samey, right? Because everybody has various levels of the same type of snark.
Yes.
Which is great.
It's a lot like a Joss Whedon vehicle, where everyone is telling jokes, but everyone has the same sort of jokes that they tell in a slightly different tone of voice and with slightly different delivery. But it's all pop culture references and various. There's I would like to make a qualification. I enjoy snark when it's clever. When it's just snark for snarkiness' sake, it's just bitchy.
Yeah,
Scalzi does a great job of it.
Yeah, that's one area that I think he excels. Like, it's justified snark, you know?
Yeah.
And it feels natural. Like, it's not, you know, just liberally painted onto everything. Like, I think his stories and his writing are more or less built around justifying the snark, which works for me.
He crafts a good story, and his characters, as much as there is a little bit of sameness, there's also enough differences between them that if you set them down next to each other in a room, you'll be able to tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're probably going to have a snark off, but
yeah. And I don't know, like I keep referring to it as sci-fi. I mean, this felt a little more space opera, and I guess his stuff does, and that it's not deep, like it's digestible. It is the kind of thing where if you're really into it, you could read the series of 3 books in a weekend kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
And the obvious contrast, I guess, to me is like comparing it to the Expanse books, where even the ones that I was enjoying can feel like a bit of a slog, right? Because you're dealing with a lot of similar themes and stuff like that, but it doesn't have the lighthearted stuff on top of it. Like you mentioned Whedon, but there's like comparisons to be made between, why Firefly works and, a lot of other stuff doesn't, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. There's the Expanse books lack the lubrication of whimsy that these have. Because it's deep and it feels dark and it feels galaxy spanning and like seriously like world ending. Whereas this is like the world is literally ending and you're like, oh yeah, okay, but these people seem to be still be enjoying themselves and having fun and discovering stuff. So,
but this girl is such a bitch, and I love her. Which one are you talking about? Yes. You could be talking about Kiva. You could be talking about the main antagonist in the series of books.
I didn't like her from the very get-go at all. Her brother is an absolute tool as well. Yeah. Both of them.
Well, and I mean, that's the point.
Yes.
Right?
The villains are obviously villains, and you don't like them, and I think that's fine.
But important, the female villains get the treatment that the male villains don't, right? Like there's a very clear attempt at making a Cersei Lannister type character. Less incest, right? Like none of that.
Much less.
But sort of that style of central antagonist character. And I thought, he pulled it off quite well.
The motivations were always very clear as well, which is not something that you see all that often, where like this person is obviously the bad guy, the antagonist, or the bad person, but at the same time, you're not like, why are they doing this? It's like, oh, okay, I understand why you're doing this. I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid, but
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, and this is appropriate for the theme that we're exploring here, which is sort of the short-sightedness of humans and their inability to put aside selfishness and self-interest for the greater good, even when the world is literally ending, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had one critique of this beyond the sex stuff, I would say that the formula was so obvious that as they started introducing more characters in the later books, I started looking at, like, there was that one man, again, it's been a month or more since I read it, the one guy who was sort of positioned initially as kind of like the antagonist. He's the one that sort of staged the prison break kind of thing and then got killed off. What was his name?
I am missing.
I've
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. So there's anyway, the point of it is that there's this sort of formula that becomes very obvious for the books. And when they would start introducing like, oh, here's an interesting character that might actually be sort of a new bad guy that kind of plays, oh, he's a dude. So he's a red shirt, right? Like it's like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going to happen, because this series is ultimately about powerful women being badasses and doing their thing. And I don't say that as a negative. I thought it was great, but it made some of the stuff in the series a little bit predictable, when they start introducing sort of antagonist male characters. But at the same time, I think all of the books managed to surprise me.
Yes.
Which was, very counter to me saying that things felt a little bit formulaic. Like that only applied to understanding the specific characters in the story, not necessarily how the story is unfolded.
There's a certain amount of things that happen because they need to happen, and it's almost as though like there's certain parts of the story that they just come after one another, like the beats that we're going to hit because it's the way that we tell stories in the modern times. There were a couple of things that surprised me, and one of them was like the Emperox basically killing herself. She basically went, "Yep, I'm going to die. That's fine." Boop. And I'm like, nope, that was nope. Because they set it up, he set that up really well in a kind of, she's going to fake her own death in order to sort of smoke people out. And then it's like, no, she just did it.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that authors do where it's like it's written in such a way. And, the Red Wedding is sort of the popular example for this, leaning on Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire, and that like, I could see how this goes sideways. Oh, holy shit, I didn't expect it to go there. Right?
Yeah.
And there's this one scene, and again, super spoilers. The Emperox is this character who, it's supposed to be a gender neutral version of emperor or empress. It is the high position of office. It is the person that rules the universe, so to speak, right? And the way the first book kicks off is that the person that is stepping into that role is not the person who was supposed to be stepping into that role. This is basically a nobody, but it is still a hereditary position, except for the, instances in history where it hasn't been. It's a role filled only by one house. And it's the equivalent of like a bastard son or daughter inheriting the throne, right? Because, everybody else that was supposed to be in the line is dead. Just a regular stepping into something that they're unprepared for. And there's some nuances, like, weird stuff about it that we don't need to get into the detail, the memory room and stuff like that. But like the job comes with all of the burdens of being an emperor. And, it turns out that she was actually quite competent. But towards the end of the book, there is that scene where it's like, oh yeah, she's having a conversation with a person who was already involved in conspiracy against her. This could go sideways. And like, it's one of those things where the author intentionally makes the chapter short, right? Like, chapter's going to have X number of pages. And it's like, this one has 3 pages. And it ends with, and then the bomb goes off. And she explodes. She's dead.
Yep.
And then like there isn't sort of the beginning of the next chapter where it's like, oh no, she's not secretly dead. It's like, oh, well, yeah, she faked her death and it's going to come out. If this follows the beats that it's supposed to, I will find out halfway through the next chapter that, oh, maybe there's something else going on. And it doesn't do that. To be clear, it also doesn't just make her dead. There is sort of a subversion of expectations and stuff that leans in the direction of what you were initially expecting, but it gives you enough chance to convince yourself that you were wrong before it sort of springs that on you.
It's masterfully done. I mean, I was literally surprised.
There's, like a lot of space opera, like it doesn't get too bogged down in the technical stuff and the science jargon, aside from, the high level stuff related to like the wormholes and, how it relates to the plot. Like we need to science this to figure out, like, is the world ending tomorrow or is it ending next week? And what can we do to save as many people as we can? And, in the backdrop of only a few people giving a shit about saving people, they managed to explore some of that. But there was some stuff that it was also like very, very interesting that I hope that they can kind of explore further. Like if you ever revisits it, the spaceship.
Oh yeah,
I
the
can't
kid.
remember
What's his face?
yeah, I can't remember the character's name, but you know, they sort of set it up slowly through the books that there's this, it's not quite cyberpunk, but like the Emperox, the office has this sort of memory room kind of thing where it's like, oh no, your memories for like, you know, from the moment that you take office, you're implanted with shit that is recording your every thought, your every whim, your every feel, your every vision. And that is being stored, you know, on a supercomputer kind of thing, so that your successors, they can't necessarily talk to you. Like it's not for most of the story positioned as like a transcendence kind of, you know, immortality sort of thing. It is positioned simply as, nope, we're recording your memories so that those are available and we can kind of present an avatar of you to your
Mm-hmm.
successors should they need to share that information. And then we realize, especially in the second and third book, that actually no, there's this isn't the only human civilization. This is a civilization that intentionally cut itself off from another part
Mm-hmm.
of human civilization, and that is sort of delivered through this, like a king of another planet somewhere that was dying, and he decided to go basically on a joyride as he was sort of being exiled anyway and was running for his life. But instead of just dying, he tapped into
Uploaded
similar
himself.
technology and uploaded himself to his ship. So, you know, the heroes, as they're sort of exploring this part of this space that had been cut off from everywhere else for a while, and as the wormholes were doing their weird shit was temporarily reconnected, they go there and they find this ship and it just basically starts talking to them like just a dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an interesting character. It felt like a joke almost, right? Like
It did.
in the backdrop of everything, and it's also like, this doesn't fit. This is weird. I like it,
Mm-hmm.
but it is weird. And it became so central to how everything ended,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that was the clue,
Yeah.
really. And I mean, he played it up with the conversations that were going on between that AI ship dude and Jahiri. Was that the name of the AI that was sort of responsible for the memories of the
Or
Emperor Oxus?
like Gigi or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. You know, the sort of interactions between those two hinted at there's probably more going on here than we're being led to believe. But, you know, it became sort of the central thing, not only for understanding how it ended, but also understanding the Emperor Ox's motivation or
Mm-hmm.
letting things play out the way she did, which was great.
It was very, very well structured for plot and story. Pacing was great. Characters are believable characters, like they act in self-consistent ways.
Yeah.
Just really, really well done all throughout.
Yeah, really,
Hmm.
it's a good balancing act, right? Because like sometimes sci-fi gets a little bit thick, gets a little bit
Yes.
long. Even the space opera stuff, right, can get a little bit heavy. Not just in sort
Yes.
of tone, but like in weight, page count, word count.
Oh, the lore that you have to remember.
Yeah, and these manage to sort of walk that line between having about the same amount of depth as like a lot of young adult stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which tends to be light on that depth, while still having enough depth to sort of tickle my interest as a person that's into sci-fi and fantasy and space opera stuff. You know, it is a 3-book series, but it is a pretty tight, like none of the books feel overly long. The pacing was generally speaking great. Like when you read Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire stuff, like you, and this is just George R.R. Martin thing. They introduce so many new characters and stuff like that that sometimes you start off a chapter and you see who the point of view character is for that chapter, and you're just like, oh, do I skip it? Do I skip it? I generally try not to skip stuff like that, but I know you tend to.
I do.
At no point did I feel any of that throughout this entire series. And it does shift point of view characters consistently from chapter to chapter.
There were a couple that I skimmed rather than read, but they tended to be short chapters that happened with, was it Genji was his name?
The one brother, yeah.
The one brother on End. Yeah, there were a couple of sort of from his point of view where I went, do I really need to know this? This doesn't seem critical. And I didn't like him. He was a slime ball.
You weren't supposed to like him.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, and there were some characters, the bad guys, right? That like there's the cartoonish bad guys like him where it's like, oh, this person isn't really overly competent. He's just a selfish idiot. And I understand that, he's probably not going to make it. I can see how this is going bad. It's going to be telegraphed, right? I agree with you that we didn't get enough from Marce's sister's perspective and all of that. I would love a standalone story, I think, that just sort of takes place in that timeline between when N got cut off in one direction, dealing with the second rebellion.
Yeah. And it would be a great story.
Yeah. Marce is an interesting character. We touched on it a bit because he felt like the self-insert. Like he's the only significant male protagonist character in the story, and he's more connective tissue than character. Like he's the science guy. The sex stuff that tied to him always felt weird because for some reason, like my headcanon for that character, I was picturing something that was not like I was picturing a nerd, right? Like I was picturing somebody like you or like a younger Rich Evans or something like that was at that sort of museum thing that we sort of see him in his first scene where he's, where I guess we're evacuating stuff, but, a bunch of teachers brought their students here. So I'm going to stand in this little planetarium thing and just kind of, I'm the son of a noble and my real job is sort of as a scientist understanding these wormhole kind of thing. But, I pictured your sort of stereotypical nerd.
Will Wheaton.
I pictured somebody a little more schlubby myself.
As Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
Just sort of gormless and nerdy.
Yeah. I pictured somebody that was a little bit more Reg Barkley myself, but schlubbier. Like I had this image of like a chubbier dude, right?
Okay.
But then it sort of turned around where it's like, oh no, Kiva wants to go at him. And now the Emperox has fallen in love with him. And it's like, this doesn't fit with the headcanon that I've established for this guy. And it's probably my fault. I shouldn't assume that, I just watched fucking Project Hail Mary. I know that not every nerd looks like Ryan Gosling, I guess, but not all nerds need to be fucking chubby white dudes or whatever, but that's what I had in my head canon. And then it became so discordant and like I couldn't suspend my disbelief at all as he was essentially the character that sort of bumbles his way into, winning the lottery, right? Like he bumbles his way into having relationships with all of these women by just being there. Not really that he's earned it. I mean, he's like a genuine nice guy character, but he's very much the guy that is always friend zoned, right? Like he's just the everyman sort of nerd. And it was laughable, but probably intentionally so. And I think my own headcanon for the character made it worse or better depending on your perspective.
He's kind of the perspective character for the audience.
Yes.
Right? Where he's the one that we all imagine is us. I mean, I've always wanted to be the kind of character that Kiva is, but I very much am much more like Marce than I am like Kiva.
Yeah, and I mean, he that's not to say that he doesn't have his heroic moments or anything like that, right? Like he does.
Oh, he sure does.
But very, very much the guy that sort of seems like he's just along for the ride and ends up in the weirdest predicament. Central, yeah. No, I enjoyed it. The moments of like where I actually laughed my ass off were not the book's parts that were intentionally funny. They were the parts where I like trying to picture this dude, just you got this ruler of the universe who's nervous to tell this schlubby dude how she feels about him, as she's got a crush on somebody that I was picturing like a younger Rich Evans in my head. It's like, what? Why?
I don't know. Even Rich Evans gets love.
And I think that, I'm basically done talking about the series, but there's one thing that I have noticed now that I'm having this conversation with you, is that one thing Scalzi doesn't do is a lot of physical descriptions of the characters. Mm-hmm. So I've envisioned these characters in my own way based on, just random shit, right? And then you sometimes get a little bit of a physical description later. It's like, oh, that doesn't line up with the way I was picturing this character.
I think, especially in books, it's much more important to get a description of a person's character than it is their physical appearance.
Oh, sure.
And when you're telling a story, it's best to leave as much as possible to the imagination. Because I
agree, but sometimes that can go very, very wrong, which in my case it did with Martha's character, where it's like, what? No.
What? No way.
Telson is hooking up with all the space princesses.
Oh, I got the gift of gab, where I can convince all of the space princesses that actually being bald is a good thing.
Bald head and bad knees, nothing hotter.
That's right. And everything in between is broken as well.
Yep. It's got to be those dick pills we talked about the last couple episodes.
They're full of lead.
Quick table talk, and then we'll sort of wrap things up here.
I think that's about right.
I actually don't have much table talk stuff to say.
Oh, nor do I. Only to say that, like, we planned a giant finale where everybody got together, and now people are starting to pull out. So it's going to be a little bit more of a, hey, let's all get together and like eat cake.
I'm still looking forward to it. So for context, Telson has his in-person group. We talked about we had to get together last summer, and then the online group that I play in, which has me, my wife, Telson's wife, another guy who we've mentioned on the show. Hi, Rich, if you're listening, who lives down in the States, who made the drive up last time. And we sort of hung out for an extended weekend. We had that sort of Avengers assembled moment where the two groups got together and we kind of did our thing. And the plan was to sort of do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But our group has never been permanent, the online group, this time around. My wife bowed out for sort of personal reasons, so she hasn't been playing regularly, though she will be coming and up for any D&D stuff that we do that weekend. Rich is, I guess you could say, he's been doing more important stuff like getting married and doing a honeymoon and stuff like that. Personally, I don't think that's a good enough excuse to not come and hang out with nerds and play some Dungeons and Dragons in a different country for a weekend, but I guess I will accept the excuse. No, he's completely understandable, but that means that, like, there's me that plays in the online group. There's Cindy, your wife, who also plays in the in-person group. And you were saying that now maybe one of the guys from the in-person group may or may not be there either.
He may have plans for the long weekend that he did not remember about when we were organizing things. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll make something happen. It's just a question of what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm still excited about the potential of doing like some one-shots and stuff like that. So even if we don't, I know you still want to try and have that kind of bow on the campaign kind of thing, and hopefully it still does happen. But Hey, I'm just excited to hang out and roll some dice with you guys, whatever we have going on. So
Yeah, whatever happens, we'll figure it out. Have you got anything from your Tuesday group to talk about?
Well, I didn't play this week. That one was on me. I just had some work stuff going on, was too busy Tuesday night, so I had to postpone it. My game's actually been interesting in a good way. This game that I've kicked off was originally going to be like a mini campaign. Another player in my group was actually going to step behind the GM screen for a little while and run a short sort of, I don't know, 10 or 12 session game, which would have sort of turned into a diversion while I could focus on planning out a mini campaign. And then she ended up moving, I think, to a different state and wasn't going to have time to do that. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll pick games back up. And I turned what was going to be a mini campaign into just kicking off a new campaign. And I think I've talked before about how much of it was just sort of like improving and riffing. Like I definitely didn't want to. I wanted to keep the stories reasonably small in sort of scale, scope, and stakes. It's sort of an urban campaign where I'm not really allowing the stakes to grow into like, you know, the world's ending kind of thing, which my other campaign very much dealt with. Not only is this world ending, but the other world's ending too, and you're the heroes that are going to save them all. We spent 3 years working our way up to that, but the past couple years of that campaign was all like, you know, it was like if you just watched the Avengers movies and never watched all the origin story movies, right? It's like, oh, okay, this is well, it felt on rails to me, even though it wasn't like intentionally on rails. But, you know, when you have characters where they're already agreed that, yep, they're going to save the world, the decisions you put in front of them aren't all that interesting anymore because it's obvious that given the choice between good or bad, they're going to do the good thing. Given the choice between saving somebody or sacrificing somebody, they're going to try and save them. So while you're technically giving them agency, are you really? So I wanted,
no, they've already made the big decision.
yeah. So I wanted to sort of rein that in into a smaller story that allowed them to be a little bit more nuanced morally and stuff. I didn't want them playing evil characters or anything like that, but I wanted to keep it street level, you know. So in the way that you got your street level heroes that are almost anti-heroes sometimes, you know, I wanted to give them the opportunity to explore some gray area stuff, which has been kind of fun. For the most part, all the characters have decided that like they mostly want to do good, but while they're doing good, sometimes they accidentally like knock off a casino
Okay.
and steal a bunch of stuff. I mean, the guy that owned the casino was a bad guy. They just went in to rescue somebody that was being kidnapped and being held by the guy that owned the casino. So, I mean, if we just happen to be walking by the vault anyway and we think we can get into it, like while we're walking out and rescuing this captive, you know, what if we took a whole bunch of money with us? Kind of thing, right? So there's been a lot of that. Some of the characters that were created for this, because again, it was not, you know, I tried in the way that I normally tried to be like, okay, here's the world. Let's create a character that has some stakes in it and motivations. I got a couple of those characters that were pretty one dimensional without a lot of, you know, obvious stuff, right? And that's fine. That almost always happens. And I've now had a couple of those players be like, oh shit, I see what you meant about this character not having, you know, any real motivations and stuff like that. You know, they're one of them had expressed like that they were falling out of love with the character kind of thing, right? Because it's like they were a bit of a cartoon character. And we've had an interesting opportunity to be like, okay, well, you know, if you just want to abandon the character and go with something else, we can do that, or we can try and work with this character, do a little bit of retconning and stuff like that to give them some interesting stakes. And that has allowed us to sort of explore some weird shit, like not weird in a out there sense in a way that doesn't necessarily fit with the material that we're kind of exploring in the campaign, which is, you know, political intrigue. Like if I can sum up the elevator pitch for my campaign, it is a Sherlock Holmesy style framework. The characters aren't Sherlock Holmes, they're not investigators or anything like that, but they're dealing with, and I know I'm kind of going out there because the Moriarty character actually wasn't a significant part of the books. It's sort of been a significant part of what the mainstream version of Sherlock Holmes has become, and that's fine. But I have Moriarty style characters kind of working in the background and sort of manipulating things in the city for their own goals and stuff like that. And they're been caught up in the tangled web of all the shit that's been going on. That's how I kicked the campaign off. They were literally being thrown off of a cliff. Either, you know, this organization or this shadowy underworld, they wanted something from them they didn't get. They saw them as a threat, or, you know, whatever the reason was. You're being disposed of. You're getting the leather shoes treatment, or the concrete shoes treatment, right? Which they survive, and now they have to try and find their place in this city where they're either hiding from all of the shit that's going on and the people that wanted them dead, or they're, you know, trying to work to solve those problems. And as the characters are growing, both in power but in terms of character arcs as well, they're now at that stage where they're starting to intentionally decide to make moves of their own, you know, where they were before just reacting to the circumstances that I was kind of throwing at them. I've now put them into positions where they're making decisions, and I'm giving them weird consequences for those decisions too. That's the other theme that I really kind of wanted to explore. So going back to that casino thing that I kind of made as a joke, they decided through a series of shit that was going on that they were going to try and rescue this girl who was being held captive by the owner of this casino, who was a bad guy. They knew he was a bad guy going in. And they decided, you know, because there was a ticking clock that I'd set up, that they couldn't wait to do this right. They had to go in, not literally guns blazing, but, you know, they couldn't really make a plan. Which meant that as they ended up in a confrontation with this guy and how things played out, there was collateral damage. Innocent people got killed.
Ooh.
They didn't kill them, but they were killed as a result of their intervention, right? Like they decided to go toe to toe eventually with a bad guy in the middle of his casino. One of them literally called out for people in the casino floor to help slow the bad guy down as he was basically going to. The general setup was that he was sort of blackmailing somebody to do some kinds of things. He was holding the daughter hostage. Do this, or, you know, your daughter will die by 3:00 in the morning on this date. And they were arriving essentially at midnight, a couple hours before that deadline was ending. They'd saved the person. The blackmail was for the mother of this person to actually kill her husband. You know, kill your husband, who is this magistrate in the city and sort of a political person, or I kill your daughter. They saved the husband by intervening, saved his life, realized that what was going on with the mother and that she was put in a position where she was, you know, essentially, I mean, she chose to follow through with it, but, you know, was still a shitty situation. She wasn't a bad guy. She was a person in making tough decisions of herself. And by intervening, they put the daughter at risk. So they rushed in to save the daughter and eventually got a bunch of other people sort of accidentally killed as part of doing that. So they're dealing with the aftermath of that. They're sort of exploring some of the hooks and daggers related to some of their characters. And it found them basically arriving at a bank. Picture sort of a arcane sort of spin, a very ether punk take on a Victorian kind of high-end bank. And they arrived there because they were trying to, you know, look into this account that a person had, but it happened just as it was being robbed. So they decide again, they're just going to go in and try and be the heroes, which is great, and learn the lessons from their casino incident and try not to get anybody killed here, which so far has worked out for them. So it's been fun. Not a lot of like exploration of fantasy tropes and stuff like that, because we're keeping it kind of urban. So the trying to fit the flavor of like the etherpunk theme into it has been more challenging than I thought it would be. But that's fine. That's fine. Like the objective isn't to, we're going to play in this world that is the way that I want it to be. You know, the objective is to sort of explore, you know, the shit that the characters have going on, and bumble into the situations that they're bumbling into. And I'm trying to, like, with a big fat ass paintbrush and a roller, sprinkle in this sort of interesting fantasy magic stuff on top of it. But at the end of the day, I think mechanically it's worked out to just sort of be like a very typical urban intrigue kind of campaign thing that could be done in any system, any kind of setting. Everybody's having fun, so I call it a win.
It sounds very interesting.
Yeah. You know, it's been a little bit tougher, like I say, trying to get some of the characters involved, like from a motivations perspective. Once they got beyond the I'm just trying to stay alive, people have been trying to kill me, and now, you know, it's like, okay, now that we're beyond that, we've established some cred.
Now what?
Right? Like, how do we keep being engaged aside from just finding out who it was that was trying to kill you and, you know, get your revenge or whatever it is. So some of that has allowed us to play into interesting themes and explore some of the magic stuff. But for the most part, it's been pretty street level kind of stuff. And again, that's okay. I have had the most interesting thing that's probably come out of this campaign is a bit something that started off as a joke and it just turned into a bigger joke. One of the characters, played by one of my guys named Nick, is kind of like the nerdy scientist-y. He's actually a druid, but he's very much kind of like that Doc Brown style scientist that seems to be disconnected with reality, but without the moral compass of a Doc Brown.
Oh,
Like, he's the kind of guy that, like, he's generally not evil, but sometimes he does stuff just, you know, to achieve the goal without really thinking of it. So, like, at one point, you know, they were trying to get into something in the harbor, right? Steal something that was on a dock that, you know, they needed to do something. And they needed to create a distraction. And, you know, he's the kind of guy that, like, you paint the picture for him. Oh yeah, you know, there's this dock and there's some families standing by looking out over the edge of the dock, and he sees a kid, right? He was being a little bit sassy with his mom. And he sort of just walks over as like a crab, as a druid, and he just pushes the kid in the water to create the distraction, right? With, you know, and of course I role play it out like, okay, well, you know, we're going to do some luck rolls and stuff because there's a very real chance this kid will drown. You know, he's the kind of character that just leads into situations like that. And I had him just as a joke stumble across some books because one of the things that he's motivated is finding, he's an academic character that comes from a university background and he's trying to find shit. And the book that he found ended up being the equivalent of like fanfic smut. Right.
okay.
And I had him in character. He was almost playing it like he didn't understand what the material was. So he was explaining to the characters, and it just became a thing where, like, every second session he would update the characters about the things that he'd learned from this book that he'd read. And it was basically like the plot of, you know, a real bad porn flick. Right. You know, Marco, who's like, you know, runs a pizza joint and is, you know, hot girl Vanessa, and, like, you know, all of the sex stuff that's in the books that his characters are reading is all sort of couched in euphemisms about making pizza. So there's just lots of puns about pies and dough and, you know,
pepperoni.
Yeah. So he started doing that. And then I challenged him as the bit sort of grew into this bigger thing. If you can give me, because he finished the book, the first book that he found. And then as he was exploring another place he happened to trip across the Pie Bearer 2 Electric Boogaloo, the sequel to the book. And I said, if you can give me just, write like a couple paragraphs of what this book is, as a druid, I will give you, he's like level 5 right now. I will give you an owl bear shapeshift, which, you don't actually get. It's a non-moon druid. It's a monstrosity, so it's not something that you can actually shapeshift into. I said, I'll give it to you. It's like CR way above what you're going to get, but I need a reasonable, like, give me 4 good paragraphs of just like excerpts from various chapters of whatever this book is. I expect a lot of, I wasn't asking him to write smut. I was asking him to write a lot of bad pizza puns. And he leaned into it hard. So hard that it's now shaped some of the shit that I'm going to have to do in the world building. Because he went a direction with it that I didn't anticipate. Sort of a worlds collide. Like I was always interpreting the worlds colliding as his character interpreting something. Like, imagine you were a fantasy druid and you read a smut book that came from our world, right? So he character was trying to like describe something as simple as like a delivery truck, and he's describing it in terms of like, metal carriages and, trying to like, what would you describe it as a fantasy character seeing something from our world, right? And in trying to understand the weird relationships and euphemisms. So it was a worlds colliding thing specific to how his character was interpreting the book. And that was my read on it, having challenged him to write a little bit more. And he ended up writing like, I don't know, snippets of about 10 different chapters and like way more than I asked him to do. And he's built that sort of worlds colliding thing into the story itself so that it's like the author of the book was like his character trying to write about something that they didn't fully understand. The parallel is that one of the things that I've set up in this world was there was an ancient sort of precursor civilization, right? And one of the things that I've weaved into one of my character stories is that they're sort of, the equivalent to like a 2 souls, 1 body type thing, where they were a monk. Part of the thing that their monastery did was that they sort of communed with essence, which is my version of, the force, the weave, the, whatever. And, try to balance it out kind of thing. And through doing that, she basically inherited this soul that she's sort of trying to understand and come to grips with. And she has no idea about sort of the origin or anything, but I'm had always intended and sort of the way I've been directing it is that this person is from that previous civilization and her monastery is actually a complete sham. Like they basically turned her into an almost empty shell of a character, because her character as originally written was just cartoonishly one-dimensional, right? Like she played it just a super sort of naive and overly positive character. And she's the one that came to me and said, yeah, I'm not sure, I'm kind of falling out of love with this character. I know I didn't make them too deep. What can we do? So as part of retconning that, I'm now turning that naivete and sort of one-dimensionalness into, actually, no, that's all that's left of your character after this monastery did some shady shit. And the shady shit that they were trying to do is make room for the souls from this ancient civilization to inhabit so that, they can learn from what was this high magic society and, typical fantasy shady shit. So I'd intended on doing this sort of worlds collide kind of thing anyway with that, right? A little bit of fish out of the water kind of stuff. And now the way Nick wrote the stuff around this fucking pie bearer porn bit thing that we've done sort of plays into that. So I now have to do something about the author of those books, that they are sort of in a, not the same situation, but a similar situation where they're clairvoyant or they're seeing into the past, the civilization that they don't fully understand. And they're trying to write about it in the best way that they can. Which is why everything is so fucking weird about it. Metal carriages and weird conveyances and, just the way everything is described and what this guy wrote is just sounds like if I were to, have visions every time I went to sleep of like ancient Mesopotamia or something like that, right? But I didn't understand anything about it. Or the other way around. If I was,
Yeah.
you know, fucking
Yeah.
early Greek or
It's-
something like that, and I, you know, was having Nostradamus like visions of crazy ass futures, and I was trying to write it down or something like that. Like that's what I have to do now. I have no choice. They've set it up. The pieces are there. It's
You're
wrapped
in
in
ancient-
pepperoni puns, but they're there.
The great arc of history is just, you know, 3 or 4 slices of crust that's left over from the pizza.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where my campaign's going. It's completely off the rails in terms of like, you know, the direction I ever expected it to go, which is completely fine because that's kind of the point, right? I intentionally didn't want to be sort of laying down predictable rails in front of them the way my previous campaign had got because it was so high stakes. We have room in our current stakes to explore things like fucking, you know, Twilight
Pepperoni
fanfic
sex.
or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, the lurid descriptions of kneading dough. But he also leaned into the fact that it was like, not only is this pizza culture like a euphemism for sex, like you would think of, you know, the pool guy, you know, in porn or whatever, but it's also this weird sort of play on like, because I used Electric Boogaloo in the name of the second book again, just because, you know, that's what you do for, you know, part 2, right? And he ended up sort of leaning into that too, where it, instead of, you know, being weird breakdancing competition, it's like tossing dough in this culture became sort of this competitive thing. So, you know, the Marco, the guy who's the main guy in the books, trying to woo and impress Vanessa with his pizza making skills, involves a lot of like topless sort of, you know, competing against other men that somehow this Vanessa character happens to know intimately. Throwing dough up in the air and flexing muscles and stuff. It's great. It's funny.
Yeah. It sounds like a great bit.
And I've convinced myself that basically that's what most D&D games need. Find the bit and lean into it hard.
Yes.
Commit to it.
That is what D&D is. It's the shared inside jokes.
Yeah, but that's it. We have struggled, and we're probably going to continue to struggle in the summer, keeping games going every week. I mean, this past week was my fault. We had been on a pretty decent run, but, you know, it's sort of that scheduled summer. Fortunately, we play like Tuesday nights, so that's not typically when everybody is trying to make summer plans.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that has been, as much as the online stuff and our player mix has been sort of a challenge, I think the Sunday nights once again has sort of become a huge challenge with our online group. This is the only night that we can play. All right, well, that'll be good until about March.
Yeah, that's about when it happens.
Which is fine.
It is what it is. You know, we do our best, and we carry on from there.
Yeah, and I'm interested in seeing what comes next, even if it means playing less frequently but more in person.
Yeah, in person is definitely better in my humble opinion.
Yeah. She knows that I want to do something sort of game room related and do like a table conversion or something like that. So she's at the point now where she's been doing a lot of Facebook Marketplace stuff as she's been trying to make the house her home again now that her sister's out. And I think almost every night now she's like, "Ooh, I saw this table. Is this what you're thinking? I saw this table. Is this what you're thinking?" I think she's being supportive, generally speaking, of me turning it into like a hybrid gaming room. So
good. It'll be nice to have that space.
It absolutely will be. I don't know, realistically, I'm not sure that it'll probably be winter again before like I'm ready to have anybody over to play. But I'm excited about the journey of getting there. I could probably have some casual games with like local friends and family kind of thing, but it'll probably be a while before I'm ready to have you guys travel and like do a weekend style thing or whatever. But I do want to get there. I think it'll be great. Like your place, this is a nice place in the summer. Got a nice backyard, barbecue. You know, we can't all do the summer weekend, so maybe I'll have to claim like the fall one.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we can start having fights over who does Easter and who does Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And just like every family.
Yeah, that feels about right too. Like, I'm thinking 4 games a year, like 4 weekends a year, not 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of envisioning a situation where it's like we play a lot of D&D in that weekend,
Yeah.
Like it might be 2 6-hour days kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to do it that way because you can keep things in mind a little better that way when you do longer sessions, right? You have more opportunity for story arc when you're doing that much time.
Yeah. And I kind of see like a balance of story arc and a balance of neat set piece stuff, like, flexing those creative muscles that I want to flex and start getting a little bit more tangible again. Not everything's going to be a multi-tiered lazy Susan or anything, but I want to do something. I need to order some XPS foam. I don't want to pay Home Depot prices.
No, you don't. You absolutely do not.
Got to find a source.
It's a good excuse to start looking at Temu and AliExpress.
Yeah. Capitalism, woo. No,
Yay.
I'm going to support Canadians with my pink foam purchases.
All right. Well, good luck finding it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Parting gifts. We have an interesting one this week, yeah?
I think so.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Anybody want a peanut?
So this goes back to our earlier discussion of not really doing serious things on the NUTI podcast anymore because, well, it's just a bit of a downer and we're not good at it and the talking of it. And after you've had a couple of beers, nobody's serious anyway. So I do actually want to explore a few of those things. So I have signed up for Substack. And my Substack is telsonmightbewrong.substack.com. If you have questions or comments, it's telsonmightbewrong@gmail.com. So I want to do, something a little bit more serious, explore some thoughts and whatnot that I have in a more textual format. It's currently empty. I haven't actually put anything up. I just signed up. It's an idea. I want to fill it out. I'll try and get something up soon. TM. If you want to send me questions, comments, or whatever, just make sure you specify which lake and what kind of kite. And yeah, check it out. I hope to have something interesting there. And if you want to send me money, that's fine too. You can do that.
I gotta find some way to troll you with this. Like the opportunity's there.
Give her.
It'd almost be inappropriate not to do it, but I don't really know how.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Want to be maybe the equivalent of that like loudmouth radio calling guy.
Well, tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, like the title of the damn thing is that I might be wrong. I'm going to put out some ideas and hopefully people will tell me why I'm wrong or why they agree.
Yeah. I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm supportive of it. I'm just trying to be an asshole about it. You're wrong because fuck you. That's why.
I'm just wrong axiomatically.
I'm interested in seeing what you write about, though, because, I think while we've tried to minimize the serious conversations on this show, what serious conversations we've had together have provided me with more insight into you, the person that I have known for 25 years. Has it been more than 25 years?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
2001 is when we met.
Fuck, we're old.
Yes, we are.
And also,
neither one of us.
November 2000 is when we met.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought I started in 2001. Anyway,
I don't think so.
It's been a long time.
You
In a
weren't
very long time.
you weren't that long after Cindy and I. We started August 2000. So
No, I was like 2 or 3 months after that.
right, I thought you were only like a few weeks after hitting the
Yeah,
floor
it was
like November.
October, November. Yeah, it was around then. I don't know. I could look it up if we're really interested in the dates.
You and your bright white collared shirt that you used to wear all the time.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I had what I had, and it's what I could afford, and it's whatever was available at the Value Village that week.
Back when we took our call center job, like super
Seriously.
seriously
Yeah.
for about 6 weeks before we were like, oh,
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
this shit. Then we complained about it for
Yeah.
multiple years before we did anything about it.
Yeah. They don't care about me. They said they cared about me, but they don't really care about me.
Do you want to see the gaping hole where my ass used to be?
Whew.
That's an all-timer.
Yeah.
One, I'm sure we've explained that one a few times on the show, but
Yeah, my favorite situation from that whole thing is when I quit. I had my performance evaluation. They said, "You're the best employee we got. We can't give you a raise, but here's a bonus check." And I said, "Thank you very much. I quit." And, "Oh, can't we convince you?" "Nope, here's a letter from my doctor that says I have to quit. Bye."
the timing of it was all kind of funny because while you lasted a lot longer at that place than I did, because I moved on to other places in the same general vein,
Mm-hmm.
we both decided that it wasn't for us at the same time because we ended up applying to go to college together.
Oh my God, yes. And neither one of us knew that the other one had done it.
Yeah, like
don't
literally
think,
going
and we
in
just-
for the same term.
Yeah.
I was going in
met
for a
again
marketing
at
program,
college.
and you were going in for your, I don't know, was it a machinist-ish type program? It was a
Mechanical, what the hell is it
engineering. I
called?
don't know.
Mechanical engineering technician, I think is what the program was called. My plan was to become a millwright.
Yeah.
And then I just discovered 3D design and went, nope, this is what I want to do.
That's usually how it works.
Yep. You never end up where you expect you're going to go. It's one of the side trails always ends up being the thing. So it seems.
So it seems. As in
So it
life and in
seems.
D&D. It's been good talking to you, man.
Indeed. And you, sir, I think it is time to return the rental beer.
I'm waiting for the joke.
I'm pretty sure it was just that. I mean, I could try and throw in a poop joke. Beans?
Beans.
The musical fruit. My beans kick ass, and I mean that literally.